And we're back. After a long stretch, we are back to recording the audiobook for book 2. I want to thank Chiago Abdallah, who I just got off the phone with. After an hour-long conversation, I want to thank Josh of Red Fury Books, and I want to thank Esme Rosalind for being the 3 people who took these books and read them when they were ugly and told me where they were ugly and where they worked. Because without that feedback, zero chance I wind up with a book that's as good as I got now. We're moving into the trial of Rooker Flynn. In all honesty, the trial of Rooker Flynn is probably my favorite of the 3 from an emotional perspective. The third book is my favorite from an action perspective. But I'm very proud of my character work in this one. So I got to tell you, I'm not excited about starting up audiobook again. It's very kind of stressful. It'll get less stressful as I go. I just need to get it wrong a couple times so I can start getting it right. So, artsy fartsy vocal warm up. I wanted to do to die today at a minute or two to 2. A thing distinctly hard to say, but harder still to do. And the dragon will come when he hears the drum, a rat-a-tat-tat-tat-tat-tat-tat, a minute or two to 2 today at a minute or two to 2. All right, let's rock. Oh, usually I throw up something so you don't have to look at my ugly mug. Let's see what I got on deck here. See? Joseph Carell stuff. Can do that. Prompts. Crimes. You know what? I'll just throw up crimes. That'll be fine. I'll swap out my background so you don't need to look at that. And I'm sure you're thrilled watching me dork around in real time, trying to avoid what I actually need to do. All right, let's get rid of this. There's Audacity. We have our 5 seconds of room tone, which is what you need in order to start recording so the editor can fill in room tone when you need to fill space. Every room has a sound, including this one. Okay, stop stalling. Prologue, The Battle of the Barrel Strait. Love is but the discovery of ourselves in others and the delight in the recognition. Love is but the discovery of ourselves in others and the delight in the recognition. Alexander Smith. No song immediately. No songs were ever sung of the Battle of the Barrel Strait. Only one survivor lived to tell the tale, and he never spoke about it until the day of his execution. And he never spoke about it until the day of his execution. It was the winter of the snake. It was the winter of the snake, a dismal year for merchants and pirates alike. Unrelenting hailstorms and lightning strikes at sea made for dangerous sailing, and commerce ground to a halt. Only one cargo vessel, the Patience Man, was desperate enough to brave the barrel, and only one pirate ship, the Seagull, was mad enough to go after her. And only one pirate ship, the Seagull, was mad enough to go after her. The pirates attacked from the north, masked by the frozen waste, and cut off the Patience Man and her shore-hugging route. The Seagull harried her for 14 hours, picking off The Seagull harried her for 14 hours, picking off crew and punching holes in her keel with ballista, catapults, and harpoons. The captain of the Patience Man displayed true courage and repelled boarders 6 times before his ship foundered. His stalwart crew outmatched, outplayed, and outmanned. All hands were put to the sword. All hands were put to the sword. In relieving the doomed ship of her treasures, the pirates tarried too long and became trapped in the ice. The world heaved beneath the Seagull as storms reshaped the sea. Lightning struck the mast. Shifting icebergs tore the ship apart like grinding rocks. The hull splintered. In the end, both ships struck headfirst into the rocky bottom of the barrel. Along with the treasures each crew had fought so hard to possess. 40 frightened pirates entered the freezing water and desperately swam for shore as sharks picked them apart. Only one slave boy made it out of the water alive. Pip woke to the stench of corpses. One eye had swollen shut, the other blinked at the frozen beach. One eye had frozen shut, the other blinked at the frozen beach. One eye had swollen shut, the other blinked at the frozen beach. Littered along the white sand were the bodies of his former crew, strewn like mannequins frozen solid in the surf. Crowsman Bondi lay face up, his head rocking back and forth as waves washed over his open eyes. Crowsman Bondi lay face up, his head rocking back and forth as waves washed over his open eyes. A pack of gulls worked on Kite, picking at the guts spilling out of his shirt. Grace had made it a few feet up the shore before she'd bled out. Horseshoe crabs crawled over the shark bite of her missing arm. I'm alone. Pip looked up the shoreline. Corpses littered the beach like driftwood. None moved. Alone. Pip's teeth chattered as he stared at the frozen waste around him. Hello? Nothing. Just the sound of the waves. They're gone. They're all gone. Pip limped across the snow-covered beach. Wrapped around a barrel, fishnets tangled around him, lay his captain. Roper John's hands were blue and puffy, his face frozen in a rictus grin. The gold chain around his bloated neck tinked against the barrel. One boot was gone, and his exposed toes looked like fat, sodden mushrooms. Gone. Pip Pip picked up a hunk of wood and prodded the corpse. A sigh of trapped gas escaped the dead pirate's smile. A last foul breath. Pip hit him with the stick. Again. His blows intensified, striking over and over at the body. Pip didn't realize he was screaming until the stick broke. Roper John's corpse still smiled at him. Pip kicked his teeth. Yes! The boy shouted at the top of his lungs, grinning like a wolf. Go on! Shivering, Pip drew in a long breath. He was trapped at the edge of the world, surrounded by the dead and freezing to death. He had never felt so free. Alone. He had no tinder or flint to make a fire, but Roper John had shown him, drunk over cards, how to create flame with the snap of his fingers. It had been a knack of the captain, a cheap bit of magic, but Pip had never learned the truth. It had been the knack of the captain, a cheap bit of magic. It had been a knack of the captain, a cheap bit of magic. But Pip had never learned the trick. Timber and flotsam from both ships littered the shore. Pip gathered it into a pile, stealing coats and shirts from the dead crew, covering himself in layers of wet wool. As he did, he stared at the wood, focusing. I can do this. He knelt next to the pile of timber and snapped his fingers. Nothing. He closed his one good eye and drew on the wick of the world. He snapped again, but the magic eluded him. He glared at Roper John's corpse. Couldn't teach me one good trick before you died, could you? For an hour, Pip hunched in the howling wind, snapping numb fingers, trying to summon the spark. The last embers of the sun faded as lightning split a frost-cracked horizon. Night fell, as did the temperature, and the cold threatened to reunite Pip with his crew. Lord of sea and sky, help me. Lord of sea and sky, help me. One last snap, and fire blossomed at his fingertips. The orange glow reflected in his eyes, the only bit of warmth in an empty world. By the time the moons came up over the Iridan, the bonfire was big enough for 20 men. Pip picked up scraps of his old ship piece by piece and tossed them in. He collected a net, 4 empty barrels, a pair of oars, 6 lengths of rope, 8 sheets of canvas, and 9 wineskins, and built a lean-to to cover them all. And built a lean-to that protected it all. Pip popped open the barrel Roper John had been clutching. Inside were two 20-pound hams packed in salt. He grinned. Alone and rich. Alone and rich. Alone and rich. Alone and rich. He chucked another piece of the seagull into the flames and danced. Oh, I got a gal who's always rotten chefs. Oh, I got a gal that's always rotten chefs. Oh, I got a girl that's always rotten. Stuffs her shirt with a bale of cotton. 6 foot tall, 8 feet of hair. Poked holes in a barrel for her underwear. Poked holes in a barrel for her underwear. Don't know Liza, don't know me. We got a ticket to the jamboree. A mule kicked her, she kicked right back. Made her bed out of an old haystack. Sung last weekend in a bass quartet. You ain't seen nothing like her yet. Don't know Liza, don't know me. We got a ticket to the jamboree. When he woke, the hams were gone. It's always interesting doing the songs. Bop, bop, bop. Never quite know how they're going to turn out. Although you sing them before, when you do the book to try and make sure everything flies the way it should. All right. The barrel was open, salt scattered on the ground. The melting snow was scarred with the jagged claw marks of some lupine animal Pip didn't recognize. All that remained of the food was one pinky-sized gobbet of pink pig. Damn it! Pip eyed the tracks. Furious, he snatched up an oar and followed them, swearing vengeance on the thief. Sleet raked across his face as he tromped to the tree line, entered the windbreak, and took a breath. The ghostly pines were sheeted in white icing, making Pip think of old Wint's strawberry cakes. His stomach rumbled. A shadow loped through the trees, dark on white. It went on all fours, furry and rangy. Wolf. Hesitating, Pip watched the creature drop something in the snow and savage it with a carnivorous growl. My ham! My ham! My ham! Enraged, Pip ran at it, rearing his oar. Branches smacked at his face. Snow exploded everywhere. The beast pelted off, running faster than the boy, and disappeared into the icy wind. Pip gave pursuit, falling farther and farther behind, his heart hammering as the snow pulled at his feet, trying to drag him down. Mine! Mine! Pip broke through the trees to find a windblown lake frozen beneath a sheet of black ice. Snow gusted across the surface in little whirlwinds, revealing the beast. It stood on the ice, quaking. A high keening sound escaped its ham-rimmed mouth. It was not a wolf. Tan fur lined its small body, decorated with a white blaze on its chest. An Akita dog. Triangle-eared with a furry tail. Triangle-eared with a curled furry tail. It stared at him with mismatched eyes, one brown, one blue. On its flank, it wore the brand of the patient's man. A sheepdog. A sheepdog. Pip strode forward, his fear gone. You rook my ham, you rook my ham, you rook my ham, you bit. His foot went through the ice. Stumbling, Pip's hands skidded on the surface as the chill water bit his feet. He scrambled backward to shore and watched a dark, wet crack cut through the ice toward the dog. It whined and turned to flee, but the ice splintered and the dog went through. It yelped and swam for the surface, paws raking furiously at the ice, trapped in a black crack within a world of white. The Akita flailed at the ice and more pieces broke away. Pip watched it struggle and splash, but it refused to let the ham go. Soon it became clear the dog would not survive. I don't need to see this. I don't need to see this. Pip turned toward the forest. He heard the dog whine, terrified. Frowning, Pip stopped and gritted his teeth. Frowning, Pip stopped and gritted his teeth. He stepped into the water. Extended his oar, and broke the ice. The Akita tried to paddle away from him and only succeeded in making a bigger hole. The Akita tried to paddle away from him and only succeeded in making a bigger hole. Pip stepped further out into the water, and Pip stepped further out into the water and felt the cold tighten his gut, then his chest, then his neck. He extended the oar as far as he could, breaking the ice between him and the dog. It paddled for the oar, clawing at it. Pip drew it back to shore. Fangs bit into the webbing of his thumb. The dog gnashed at him, and Pip stumbled onto shore, bleeding. The Akita snapped the hand out of the water and raced up the bank. That was stupid. Pip cradled his bitten hand and watched the dog escape. It turned and stared at him triumphantly, then fled into the woods. The boy lurched through the trees back to his camp, freezing. He threw more ship timber into the coals and built a fire with shaking hands. Within minutes, the wreck of the Seagull was burning once again. Pip threw himself down near the fire, shivering. As he warmed, he rolled over and saw the Akita standing in the snow only a few feet away. A tan ghost with a ham in its mouth. Pip scowled. No! No! You rook my ham, you can't rook my fire! Pip threw sand at it. No! Bad dog! No! Bad dog! No! Bad dog! The Akita whimpered. No! Yelled Pip. The dog hunkered down on its forelegs and belly crawled toward the fire. It kept coming, paw by paw, mismatched eyes, pleading. Pip snatched the ham. The dog snarled, but only kept half. The dog snarled, but only kept half. The dog snarled, but only kept half. Covered in dog slobber and sand, pink meat hung limp in Pip's hand. He shoved the gobbet into the fire and let the meat cook. The Akita cowered on its belly. The Akita cowered on its belly and raised a paw to him, whimpering. Pip saw its frozen fur, the icicles around its nostrils, heard its pleading whine. He's as lonely as I am. He's as lonely as I am. Pip shrugged. Fine, you can come, Rooker. Fine, you can come, Rooker. It joined him. The dog walked nervously around the blaze thrice The dog walked nervously around the blaze thrice before it finally picked a warm spot on the. The dog walked nervously around the blaze thrice before it finally picked a warm spot on the far side and lay down. Pip smiled. Okay. He plucked the ham from the fire, brushed away the sand, and took a bite. He eyed the dog, its tan coat glowing orange in the firelight. As the wind howled, Pip stared at the animal, thinking of Bondi, of Kite, of Roper John. All things considered, the thieving dog was better company. All things considered, the thieving dog was better company. Pip watched the sunset and felt the night air go crisp and brittle. Snow fell, big white puffs that drifted from the sea and settled on his knees. He scooted closer to the fire and tucked the rest of the ham into the salt barrel, making sure to seal it tight. When he woke, the Akita was nuzzled against his chest, sleeping like a baby. Despite the cold and the sleet, the next few days were the best of Pip Weingrad's life. Together, the boy and his dog explored the vast white wilderness. Mysteries awaited beyond each shadow, every one a peril to be faced together. Every day an adventure, every hunt a victory, every meal a feast. The world was theirs. Fishing was easy. Pip's lines trapped 4 or 5 fish a day. They ate grayling and salmon for the first 10 days until they discovered a species of They ate grayling and salmon for the first 10 days until they discovered a species of ptarmigan that roamed the island. The little bird's wings were no more useful. The little bird's wings were no more useful than a chicken's, and they made for easy prey. Pip ran into a covey of birds. Pip ran into a covey of birds, waving his arms and hollering. Ptarmigans scattered, waddling away from him and squawking. As they fled, Pip hollered, "Get him!" The Akita darted from his hiding place and snapped sharp teeth around a ptarmigan's neck. The covey fled into the woods and left their brother to his fate. Smiling, Pip walked toward the dog, hand out. The Akita growled, hanging on to the bird. Rooker! 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 Pip yelled. "Give me that snow chicken! Give me that snow chicken!" The dog backed away, snarling. Mine. Mine. Pip threw up his hands and headed back toward camp. Fine, you carry it. They raced each other down the beach. After eating the bird, they tussled in the sand, hollering and barking. When the moons came out, they howled at them together, a triumphant duet in the winter night. Within the month, the bodies began to stink. Even frozen corpses decay, and more arrived each day, washed ashore with the wreckage of the Patience Man. Exploring the coast, they found a towering cone-shaped outcrop. that jutted from the sea like a thumb. The boy eyed the peak 300 feet. The boy eyed the peak 300 feet high. Good place for a signal fire. Throwing a stick for the dog to fetch, he investigated the little mountain and considered the pooling eddies below. Good fishing spot, too. Good fishing spot, too. What do you think, boy? Is this our new home? What do you think, boy? Is this our new home? Rooker barked. Rooker barked, annoyed that he wasn't. Rooker barked, annoyed he wasn't throwing the stick. Pip obliged him. Pip obliged him. When they returned to camp, several bodies were missing. They had been dragged into the trees by large animals. Pip couldn't read sign well, but he saw the tracks. 2 or 3 of them. Long claws. Dragging tails. Bells. Bells. All right, boy. All right, boy. All right, boy. He dusted snow off his pants. Let's get to work. Let's get to work. Rooker was no help at all. The Akita barked and ran in circles around Pip while he hauled the remains of the seagull and the patient's man to their new camp, piece by piece. Pip christened the big rock Thimble Tower and set his fishing lines. Pine boughs jammed between rocks made good poles, and his lines were sturdy, their hooks baited with ptarmigan guts. Pine boughs jammed between rocks made good poles, and his lines were sturdy, their hooks baited with ptarmigan guts. After a long day, Pip slumped on his backside, exhausted. You're going to have to carry your weight, Rooker. Toughen up. The Akita barked, agreeing. Pip assessed his new camp near Thimble Tower. He'd made more than a dozen trips, but he still didn't have half the gear. Gotta go back for more. That night was their last at the site of the wreck. All right. I got to take a break. Thank you so much for joining. I appreciate you. I'm gonna jump because I need to kiss my son goodnight because it's very late. Hugs and kisses. Thank you for joining me. See you in a bit. Ciao, Bella. Bye.